There are plenty of things to be said about the women of the various Yu-Gi-Oh animes, mostly to do with their terrible treatment and constant sidelining and damselization throughout their respective series. But the recent resurgence of Red Rose Dragon, alongside the new Rose Dragon support in Lightning Overdrive, and the now meta Kitchen Synchro style deck, made me think for a second about just how much of an impact on the meta various Yu-Gi-Oh ladies have had, appearing in all different flavors of meta deck in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And historic play, as well as alt formats. Because while these girls might have been denied their chance to shine in their home series, most of them have had at least 15 minutes of fame in the TCG. Starting, of course, with Jewel Monsters, we see Taya Gardner, who isn't actually much of a duelist, and on the rare occasion she does duel, she uses monsters like Happy Lover, who for some unknown reason never really accomplished much in the TCG. However, in the Spirit Duel, where they turn into Jewel Monsters cards, she transforms into Magician of Faith, a card that was very historically relevant, showing up in all sorts of GOAT format decks as a way to recur spells. However, Taya wasn't the only protagonist adjacent woman in Jewel Monsters, and Mai Valentine possesses quite a bit more meta relevance. While Harpies have never quite cracked meta contention in the TCG, they saw quite a bit of success in Duel Links when Cyber Slash got imported, using cards like Perfumer and Channeler to turbo her out. Funnily enough, Amazonesses, another archetype Mai uses in the Battle City arc, were quite dominant in early Duel Links. But just because Mai's archetypes never saw much play in the TCG, doesn't mean that her cards never saw play. Harpy's Feather Duster was an insanely strong card in classic Yu-Gi-Oh, which caused it to spend an extended stay on the ban list, and even now it's limited to 1 because of its immense power. Also, fairly recently, Harpy's Featherstorm was printed, a frankly insane card, effectively VFDing your opponent for 1 turn, which is seen play in pretty much every deck that plays Wind-Winged Beast, even if in the side, due to its incredibly oppressive nature. Moving on to GX, we see Alexis Rhodes, the first woman that I ever saw, and the Queen of Third Wheeling. Her Cyber Angel deck was always on the fringes of playability, and saw quite a bit of success in Duel Links as a pure deck, using Benton, Ida-ten, and Dakini, as well as the protection offered by Machine Angel Ritual to control the game state. However, with the advent of Drytron, the Cyber Angel saw a lot of success as a supplementary engine to help turbo out Herald of Ultimateness, particularly with Benton's non-once per turn search when it's tributing, earning her a limit for her troubles. Ida-ten and the Arc V edition of Natasha both managed to see some play alongside her. Overall, for how far back in Yu-Gi-Oh's history she is, Alexis has managed to stay extremely relevant to the modern Yu-Gi-Oh TCG. Akiza from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds is the first and only girl on this list to have multiple cards not just on the Forbidden Limited list, but outright banned. Phoenixian Cluster Amaryllis is banned due to a particularly nasty FTK involving Topologic Bomber Dragon due to a non-once per turn special summon effect that burns. Glow Up Bulb is also sadly banned, mostly due to the sins of Crystron Halki Fibrax, but a tuner that can revive itself for free has historically been very useful, seeing a lot of play in historic plant synchro builds. Also, Evil Thorn is quite useful in plant decks as a way to easily summon Aromaseraphy Jasmine, as well as get extra bodies on the field. Black Garden has also seen some play, however, like Phoenixian Cluster Amaryllis, has mostly only seen play in scummy FTKs, one of which became meta briefly in Dragon Link, using the effect of Asclepiscu, a card introduced by another 5Ds lady, Kali Carmine, to burn your opponent for each of their monsters. However, the crown jewel, in my opinion, of Akiza's cards are the Rose Dragons. Of course, the first and foremost of these is Black Rose Dragon, effectively a board wipe, and the best level 7 synchro in the game for a long while, though it's long since been power cracked. But far more recently, the Baby Rose Dragons have taken the spotlight, with red into white seeing some play in gimmicky Dark Warrior builds as a tuner that could replace itself, but with the release of Lightning Overdrive and Rox Rose Dragon, as well as Basal Rose Shoot, the Rose Dragons became a fairly competent normal summon in the kind of kitchen synchro style deck that was becoming popular with the release of the Adventurer engine, as you could normal summon Red Rose, synchro it off to summon Rox Rose from deck, which searched Basil Rose Shoot to revive a Rose Dragon, making Red Rose Dragon one of the highest impact normal summons in the game, providing a total of 3 level 3 tuners, cementing its place as a cornerstone of what is, as of the time of writing, one of the strongest, most promising decks in the TCG, which I think is pretty cool. Thanks, Akiza, for one of my favorite decks of the past few years. Moving to Zexal from Akiza's vast array of powerful, impactful monsters, it's hard to not be disappointed. Tori Meadows is probably the least important, least relevant main character in every single Yu-Gi-Oh anime combined, a fact that I'm very sad about. She's pretty much exclusively used as a cheerleader or as a damsel, and the one time she actually gets to duel for herself, it's in a corrupted state where she's mind-controlled to be evil, which just sucks. There are some meta-relevant cards introduced by other ladies in Zexal, like Photon Pappy Operative, which saw play in Wind-Ups, and Anna Kaboom's deck, which was kind of like a thesis statement for the rank 10 train deck, which came to be quite playable in the TCG. As while there are practically no shared cards between the two, the concept of the deck is the same. Overall, women in Zexal didn't really have a fair chance to have any meta-relevant cards, as they were barely even allowed to duel. Arc V is a bit of a unique anime, as it has a total of 4 leading guys and girls, and all of the 4 bracelet girls of Arc V have had at least some level of meta impact. Starting with Zuzu and her Melodious archetype, which has never even been close to TCG viable, but, thanks to an extremely pushed skill, was able to become an extremely dominant force in Duel Links, through a kind of Towers-like boss monster, and an archetypal honest. Selena's Lunalight deck has seen play in both the TCG and in Duel Links, and Duel Links is a strong battle-focused fusion deck, relying on being able to easily summon Saber or Cat Dancer to OTK, but in the TCG, the deck saw play mainly as an engine within Orcus decks, looping Lunalight Tiger's effect to get a bunch of free special summons, a strategy that was strong enough to land Tiger on the ban list for quite a while, only coming back to a 1 a few months ago. Rin's Wind Witch strategy was competitive for a while as well, as an engine to turbo out Crystal Wing in a deck that didn't mind being locked to wins. The final girl of Arc V, Lulu Obsidian, uses Lyrilisk monsters, a deck that for quite a while was simply a gimmicky rank 1 archetype, as well as Independent Nightingale, the card responsible for the banning of the Tyrant Neptune. However, in Legendary Duelist Synchro Storm, quite a few cards, including Unsub Blue Robin and Bird Call, were strong enough to launch Lyrilisk with the help of the Tri-Brigades into a very comfortable meta spot in a deck called Bird Arc. In fact, the new support was strong enough to cause Lyrilisk, Restil Starling, to be limited. Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, the last series on this list, introduces Sky Zyson, and she uses 2 different decks in her series, being Trickstars and Marincesses. Unfortunately, Marincesses are the only deck used by a female protagonist to really not see any kind of competitive success at any level. And I'm gonna be honest here, I have not read any of the Marincess cards, and I don't intend to anytime soon. Trickstars, however, have seen some play, largely down to a very effective hand loop in early Link format, combining Trickstar Reincarnation with Droll and Lockbird, to banish your opponent's whole hand at spell speed 2. The deck's power led to Trickstar Light Stage being limited to this very day. In modern times though, the deck mostly exists as an engine to summon a Link too easily, with Candina searching Lilybell to special summon it. However, this is not strong enough to warrant much competitive play in modern times. Overall, the women of the various Yu-Gi-Oh! Animes have introduced a plethora of cards that have, over the years, had significant impact on the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, and in Duel Links, which I think is neat. There wasn't really a point to this video, I just thought it would be nice to look at all of their decks' varying impacts. The International Women's Day thing in the thumbnail was supposed to be a joke. Thank you very much for watching though. Make sure you go out there and respect a woman today. See you next time.